Hi, my name is Peyton and welcome to the party. Today we're going to be making one of my favorite fall recipes called monkey bread. If you're not super good in the kitchen and you want something super simple and easy, but big enough to where you can share it with your friends, family, or bring it over to a party, this is the recipe for you. So let's get started. The ingredients that you're going to need, it's only 5 things. You're going to want your biscuits, your white sugar, your brown sugar, cinnamon, butter, technically 6 things, but this is optional. If you want to put, roasted pecans in it to give it a little crunch, you can. If it's not your thing, you don't have to add it. The first step we're going to do before even touching the ingredients, you want to preheat your oven to 350, and we're going to go ahead and grease our pan. You want to get a bundt pan that looks like this. I just use this Pam Easy Clean, whatever. And then you're gonna take a paper towel, and I always just like wiping it down to make sure nothing sticks and all the little crevices in there get all of the grease. Now that we have that all greased up, we're gonna put that off to the side. And then we're gonna take our biscuits. Once we take our biscuits, if I can get it to open, this is a struggle. Woo! And I just take all of it out. You're gonna take each one, like so, and you're just gonna cut it into fourths. You want it to be little bite-sized pieces that are easy to pick up. One thing that I also really love about this recipe is I feel like it's always a crowd winner. Think cinnamon bun, but the ooey gooiness is on a whole other level. Now that we have all the biscuits cut up into bite-sized pieces, we're gonna take our white sugar and put about 1 cup into a medium-sized bowl. Get all that in there. And then we're going to take about 2 tablespoons of cinnamon and mix that in with the sugar. One thing about baking, or this recipe in particular, I feel like you kind of just eyeball everything and it'll still turn out good. After you have this combination, the cinnamon and sugar, you're going to go ahead and just mix all of that together. So now that we have that mixed together, we're going to take each little bite-sized biscuit and we're going to toss that into the sugar cinnamon combination, and make sure you coat each piece really well. And then after you coat it really well, we're actually going to take the biscuit and set it in gently into the bundt pan. And you're going to do this throughout the whole thing until each little bite-sized piece is completely covered. The bite-sized piece should really look something like this, completely coated. Speed things up. You don't necessarily have to do it one by one. You can toss a couple in there. Again, the whole point, just make sure that every piece has a bunch of sugar on it. As long as the pieces have a bunch of sugar, you're good to go. All right, so now after you have a solid layer of the sugared biscuits, you are gonna go in and add the chopped roasted pecans and add a layer. There's no right or wrong amount. I would say eyeball it and do as much or as little as you would like. It's totally optional, but I'm a huge texture person. So I love the combination of that ooey gooey, buttery flavor, and then every so often you get that crunch. So you want to add that in, and then you're going to go in with the second half of the sugared biscuits, and then you're going to add a second layer of the pecans on top. Now that we've added our second layer of the coated biscuits and the sugar cinnamon, we're gonna add now our second layer of the chopped pecans and just do whatever your heart desires. I think that's the great thing about baking is you can pretty much eyeball most of the things, especially if it's an easy ingredient like this, and it will still turn out good. Now that we have the biscuits and sugar set aside in a bundt pan, we're going to get started with making our buttery sugar glaze sauce. We're going to take half a cup of brown sugar and 1 full cup of butter and melt it. This will be the hardest part of this whole process, especially if you do not consider yourself to be kitchen savvy or a good cook. The most important part here is to make sure you heat your small saucepan to medium-high heat, and as soon as it comes to a boil, you want to take this buttery sugar glaze sauce off and stir it until it thickens. Don't walk away from the stove while you're cooking this because it's really easy to burn the sugar and the consistency will be completely off. Another component that we're going to add to this sugary glaze sauce is the bowl of white sugar and cinnamon that we were using to coat the biscuits in, and add this into the mixture. We won't add the whole thing in, but I would eyeball about half a cup. And we're just going to make sure that this is nice and blended together. And the trick here is to not overcook the sauce and think about it as dissolving the sugar into the butter as opposed to cooking it. We want to bring this to a boil, and the reason that it's important to make this in a small saucepan is so that we can keep a close eye, so whenever we see the white film ring in the actual pot, this is your sign to leave it on for about 30 more seconds before you remove it from the heat and start to stir the sauce until it creates a medium thick consistency. So we are going to take this warm, buttery brown sugar sauce that we just made, and we are going to drizzle it all over these sugary cinnamon biscuits that we have in the bundt pan. Just make sure you spread it evenly across. You want all that gooiness to be spread throughout. I just let it sit for about 2 minutes or so. Just not to cool down completely, but just let it settle. And then you're going to pop it in the oven for about 30 minutes. This may vary depending on how fast your oven cooks. Always put it in the center rack, but the way that you'll tell that this is done is there's going to be a warm brown, crispy texture on top. Or if you have a thermometer, I'm not that savvy in the kitchen. You can put it into the bundt cake and it should be about 190 degrees. All right, now that we've let this sit for about 2 minutes or so, we're gonna go ahead and pop this right into the oven. And again, make sure that you put it on the center rack. I feel like that's what makes this dish cook most evenly. It's been 30 minutes. This is what it should look like, or something like this. This is what it should look like on top. That's how you know it's ready. Now that we've let the monkey bread rest in the pan for about 5 or 10 minutes, make sure you get a big enough plate for the bundt pan to fit in. Take this. This is the moment of truth. Flip it. Look how pretty that is. Now for the best part is trying it. I'm so excited. If you could only smell how good it smells in here. That is so good. It's ooey. It's gooey, buttery, cinnamony. It's crunchy from the pecans. This is the perfect dish for the fall, and I promise you, any party that you bring this to, you will be the crowd favorite. Thank you for joining me on today's episode of Welcome to the Party. And remember to stay tuned so we can share all the ways you can elevate and turn up any party scene.